Pluto has spent the last 14 years in Capricorn, starting in 2008. On March 23, 2023, it will begin its gradual transition into Aquarius. The last time Pluto was in Aquarius was in the late 18th century, at the time of American, French, and Industrial revolutions, which dramatically changed the world. Let's take a look at what Pluto's transit through Aquarius will be about this time. My name is Anastasia. I'm a traditional Western astrologer specializing in natal, relationship, and predictive readings. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe, leave me a like or a comment. And if you'd like to work with me, there are links down below. I'm happy to give you a reading and talk to you about your chart or the events to come. So Pluto entering Aquarius is still ways away, but I think it's like a really big deal, and I sort of felt called to talk about it right now. What is Pluto? Pluto is the planet that deals with intense feelings. It's the planet of power, control, obsession, reform, and transformation. Pluto doesn't deal with shallow things. Pluto wants depth. Pluto wants to see you at your core, strip you, kind of like, it doesn't care for the clothes that you wear. It wants to see inside, deep inside your soul. I hope you cannot hear the construction that's going on because, of course, I'm getting the emphasis on this transit right now. On the healthy level, Pluto can be about living with the awareness of depth, living with the awareness of power, but having like a healthy balance of power, sharing power with other people, sharing your vulnerabilities with other people. On the extreme level, Pluto can be a sign of obsession and fear and jealousy and manipulation. And sometimes people who have Venus in a square to Pluto can try to hold the power, try to exert the power over those they love. So Pluto being in Capricorn from 2008 Capricorn is a very traditional sign, right? So Pluto being in Capricorn is the time when we were like more about tradition. We were trying to hold on to like control and power. A great example is Vladimir Putin or a Belarusian President Lukashenko. Like Putin especially changed the laws in order to be in power longer. When Pluto is in Aquarius, those structures and power figures may likely fall, or they do fall, and the new structures are put into place. Last time this happened was about 245 something years ago. Pluto was in Aquarius from 1777 until 1798. And, similarly, like during Pluto in Capricorn, French royalty has been in charge for a long time. During Pluto in Aquarius, people wanted to have more say. People wanted to throw off the monarchs, right? So Louis XVI, Marie Antoinette, King George III, like the world has seen them fall. And it was also like the time when the old United States became the new United States, right? Because the US has Pluto and Capricorn, but it was basically like created at the very end of Pluto being in Capricorn, and then the rest of it, including the US flag, were already created with Pluto being in Aquarius. This was also the time of the Industrial Revolution, right? And new beginnings in production, the start of manufacturing, start of factories, major changes to the way people used to do things. The development of middle class, the development of a lot of personal freedoms and democracy are also connected with Pluto in Aquarius. And Uranus was discovered at the same, also during Pluto in Aquarius in 1781. So there were a lot of breakthroughs, a lot of, the way the world was done didn't stand, a lot of shakeups, a lot of structures that had to fall in order for the new ones to be rebuilt. It is a slow transition. It's not like Pluto goes into Aquarius in March 2023. Pluto will actually do a dance, right? Like Pluto goes in, retrogrades out, goes in again, retrogrades out, goes in again, and then stays. So we have the first period of Pluto in Aquarius from March 23rd, 2023 until June 11th, 2023. And then the second one will be January 20th, 2024 until September 1st, 2024. And then finally, it will ingress on November 19th, 2024 and will stay until March 8th, 2043. So approximately 20 years of Pluto in Aquarius, a really big thing to talk about. So similarly to, you know, astrology is a study of history very much, right? Like in things that have happened, you look at the past experiences to try and understand what might come. So similarly, we can expect some sort of political, social, economical changes, right? Especially when it comes to power and the fall of certain idols, the fall of certain kings that were in power. It's funny that, you know, Queen Elizabeth passed away, and I mean, this happened with Pluto still being in Capricorn, but like she passing away is an example of like a monarch dying. And, you know, like kind of, I know that they don't technically have a lot of power in England, but it's still a significant event when it comes to like, who knows, the next guy, Charles, I don't know, he's less exciting than Queen Elizabeth. But yeah, like Saturn being in Aquarius could bring the fall of monarchs who usurp and control power, like Vladimir Putin, for example. Wouldn't that be nice? And kind of like more freedom for people, right? Maybe more people will potentially rebel and feel like they want to have a say in things. It doesn't have to be a bloody revolution, but there might be a sense of new beginnings and new structures and new ways of doing things. The world shifting, like last time we had industrial revolution, this time around there might be a change of the world moving online, right? Like a major transformation. We're slowly kind of getting there of working from home and having more freedom, using online, using Zoom for meetings and connecting with people. So we can expect to see the rise of technology, Meta, for example, becoming a major thing, right? There's technology, to me, is always like, all really depends on how you use it. And people who are like anti-Meta, there's things that can be negative, of course, but there are also things that can be positive, for example, for like elderly people who still want to be able to use, to enjoy life, right? Like there are so many great possibilities. We can see more, of course, development of scientific topics, of space exploration, of artificial intelligence. You know, Pluto is nearing Aquarius, and we have this whole thing with like, you can give the AI commands and it shows you images, which is insane to me. Technology that helps the world, helps, you know, the environment, because Aquarius is a very societally, environmentally oriented sign. So, you know, green technology, electric cars. And what's interesting too is that last time Pluto was in Aquarius, we also had like Uranus. We had Pluto in Aquarius, Uranus in Gemini for a little bit, and we're gonna get Pluto in Aquarius, Uranus in Gemini again starting in 2025. And those two are both air signs and full of ideas, right? Like Uranus in Gemini, how about this? And Pluto in Aquarius is like, here I am, I'll give you the resources. So there might be even more, like when Uranus is in Gemini from July 2025 until December 2033, there might be even more of digital upgrades, new tech, and things that we can't even imagine right now showing up. So on a personal level, Pluto, like I said, wants depth, intensity, and transformation, right? It may make you like explore topics related to the house it's going to be in more deeply. And this is just, I'm going to run through all 12 signs, but this is just a preview of the transit. As we get closer, we will look at it closer. But kind of a pool to examine those things, to question those things, to... It's a really long transit, right? Like for 20 years, you'll be looking at this topic of your life. And it's almost like getting Pluto natally in this sector for 20 years and getting used to the powers and the challenges of this placement. People sometimes worry about Pluto as like death, and, you know, there's like a fear of mortality. But the goal of Pluto is not to like kill us off. It's about like killing off things that are holding us back. It brings up fears, it brings up obsessions, but the goal is to look at them, hold them, and release them. And as much as, you know, people are fear of death, like there can also be death of self by entering a relationship or getting married. There might be death of your independence by becoming a parent. So it's not all bad, right? Like it's a part of you has to die. Saturn is very much the lesson of that too. And Saturn being in Aquarius for the last 2 years also feels crucial because Saturn is getting us ready for more of that, right? Like Saturn is very much like, what do you have to say no to in order to bring new beginnings? Like what do you have to say no to when it comes to personal freedom in order to start a relationship? Or what kind of professional things you have to say no to in order to reach the dreams that you're trying to reach. So even if Pluto brings some kind of death and change and transformation, it's also about rebirth. I had, you know, Pluto is wrapping up the long cycle in my 4th house of home and family, and Pluto entered the 4th house of home and family in 2008, and that was like, I moved to the States in 2007, and my relationship with my family, my whole sense of self has changed so dramatically from like becoming an American citizen, losing my dad and my grandparents, and just becoming my own home, even though that could have been always the case, but there's definitely been some like important transformations for me. And that is the Scorpio rising coming up. They get Pluto in the 4th house. You know, the good and bad mixed together, transformation, some intensity, some deep emotions. Okay, let's take a look at all 12 signs right after I sip some of my tea. Okay, so what can this bring to you? For Aries rising, Pluto is going into your 11th house, and Pluto in the 11th might revolutionize how you relate with other people. It might encourage you to become a leader of the men and take on the role of transforming other people's life, right? Like you become more interested potentially in society, in politics, in volunteer work and charity. You may connect with new people, people who support your work, people who align with your new goals, as well as figuring out new dreams and new hopes and aspirations, and maybe getting the courage to go after them. For Taurus rising, Pluto goes in your 10th house, and this is all about revolutionizing your career. I feel like Taurus risings have been doing this already, but Pluto in the 10th house will be interesting because it's both like Pluto darkens, and Pluto might, in the 10th house, might give you more power behind the throne, might kind of give you obsession when it comes to power, so be careful there. But launching a new project, starting a business, presenting yourself in a new light will be very much a transformation that you're likely to go through. For Gemini rising, Pluto will be in your 9th house, and this is interesting. I'm actually quite excited about it, especially because I have a Gemini rising friend, and she's been trying to switch careers and present and kind of like publish. So Pluto being in your 9th house could be very much about becoming an educator. It could be about traveling the world and changing your relationship to what is home, or, you know, your relationship to travel. It could be about publishing and teaching and sharing your wisdom with the world, right? Like 9th house is the house of God. It's the place of questioning your beliefs and sharing your knowledge and learning more. So you may be embracing a new role when it comes to teacher, student, writing, publishing dynamics. And let me know if this is something you've been thinking about and this is something you can see happening for you. For Cancer rising, Pluto goes in your 8th house, and you can see significant changes surrounding money, working with other people, putting resources with other people, starting some kind of joint ventures, right? Paying off debts, maybe coming into some kind of money through like inheritance or returns on investment, mortgage, anything like that. There might be a bigger question of like working with other people and their resources, and also questions of freedom from dependencies, freedom from unhealthy relationships, and finding like better give and take dynamics. But yeah, like facing fears of mortality could be a part of this too. Not necessarily because you lose people in your life, but because maybe you need to start taking better care of yourself. For Leo rising, Pluto enters the 7th house, and there is deep transformative experiences for your partner potentially coming up with this transit. And, you know, death and rebirth in relationships, changes to the way you relate to other people and present yourself, as well as getting married could be a possibility of Pluto in the 7th house. Having some kind of revolution in your relationships, starting new creative partnerships, starting a business partnership that pushes you forward and pushes you. And basically the way you are looking at relationships will not be the same when Pluto leaves your 7th house. And I'm curious too, if you have just finished this transit and if you're listening to this, let me know how it played out for you. For Virgo rising, Pluto is entering your 6th house, and here I see this as manifesting in 2 ways. First of all, it might encourage a change to the way you approach your daily life and your health. Basically, Pluto spending 20 years in your 6th house may find you as someone who eats a lot of meat and maybe a lot of carbs and dairy, but then you become a vegetarian later on. You become a lot more health conscious. There might be profound changes to your daily routines, to the way you do work as well, because, you know, 6th house is service and hurdles and kind of like daily matters. So something about the way you do work can be revolutionized, as well as, and the second possibility that I mentioned is, I think, like embracing the role of a healer or taking on the service role where you like help people and gift people in some kind of Aquarian way, scientific, revolutionary, using unknown herbal medicine or new technology in order to help people. So some kind of exciting changes in your work life. For Libra rising, Pluto is coming into your 5th house, so you can expect changes and revolution of creative projects, maybe taking on a role, more of a role of an entertainer. Ooh, I'm a Libra rising and I'm kind of excited about that. Taking on new creative ventures, changing your relationship to creativity, changing your relationship to children. There might also be major developments when it comes to children. Like you've always thought you don't want any kids, but then Pluto comes into your 5th house, introduces you to a person who you see as the wonderful partner, and you decide to have children. As well as deeper transformation of your sexuality. I can see a possibility here too. For Scorpio rising, Pluto is going to enter your 4th house, and you can experience deep transformations around home and family. Your role in the home and the family might change. You might become more of a power figure, more in control, more in charge. Your responsibilities could change, right? Like your role might change. As I said, I'm just finishing this up, right? And I like moved to another country, and the way I was perceived in my family definitely changed. So yeah, like you can expect developments with home, property, land, place of living, working with families, sometimes like starting a family business or starting to work from home is a possibility, as well as like deeper internal work when it comes to transforming familial relationships or transforming your past and how you define your past. For Sag rising, Pluto will go into your 3rd house. And so here, this to me is very much about your message and the way you communicate and your skills and your marketing and how you offer and present yourself. So Pluto in the 3rd house can be about believing in your ideas and believing in what you have to offer and like starting to present yourself in a different way, like taking your skills and maybe your interest in herbal medicine to the next level, or taking your singing to the next level and, you know, becoming more, taking it, like making it professional. I think it will also give your voice a lot more power and a lot more strength. And you can see changes to your relationships with siblings as a possibility, or a sibling or your immediate environment, your neighbors going through some kind of transformative event where maybe you're living in a neighborhood that is not so busy, but then suddenly, you know, they put a Starbucks in and everybody comes to your hood now. For Capricorn rising, Pluto is entering the 2nd house, and you've already had Saturn in your 2nd house. So Pluto in the 2nd, to me, feels very much about self-worth, and it feels about like transforming the way you make money to bring some long-term, serious stream of income and taking more control of your finances. So new career or new long-term financial foundations are very much our possibilities here. And becoming more like, you know, assertive when it comes to becoming more of an authority figure, I think is a possibility too. For Aqua rising, Pluto is going into your 1st house. So this is really major, right? 1st house is you, and dependent on where your ascendant is, if it's like really early in Aquarius, it's going to start conjoining your ascendant, and Pluto conjunctions are always like back and forth for a while. So this is a really big time of personal transformations, right? And whatever Saturn being in Aquarius has brought for you, this will be a continuation of that. Pluto in the 1st could bring physical changes, like you start wearing darker colors and maybe your image becomes more intense. It could be about rebirth. It's very much about rebirth and asking what is the next 20 years of your life are going to be about. What do you want to be known for? What do you want your legacy to be? Where do you want to assert yourself and show your knowledge and, you know, your strength? So getting more clarity on your goals, getting more awareness and pursuing your goals, and totally reinventing yourself and your career are likely here. And finally, for Pisces rising, Pluto will be in your 12th house. So this will highlight topics of spirituality and healing. And you may be suddenly more interested in therapy or esoteric astrology, tarot kind of matters, and dedicate more time to that, for example. There might also be a need to address any of your self-defeating tendencies and your negative habits, perhaps release them and work with them. And that's where you may find help in astrology and tarot and anything like that, as well as 12th house deals with healing and becoming a healer and giving back and connecting with people who are isolated and lonely and misunderstood or somehow, you know, unfortunate. So you can also go through a really deep transformation where you embody a supporter of those people. Okay, this is all I have. This is a quick look and early take of what Pluto in Aquarius might be about. I hope it resonated, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.